Welcome to episode 9 of the Seed Growers Podcast. I'm Dan Brisebois, seed grower at Tunnicliffe Cooperative Farm and spreadsheet and crop planning enthusiast. With the Seed Growers Podcast, I want you to get inspired to go out and save some seed on your farm. This is the before last episode of season 1 of the Seed Growers Podcast, and I would love to know what you think about this season and what you want for season 2. You can tell me your thoughts by clicking on the survey link in the show notes and answering a few questions. It would mean a lot to me. Robin Tunnicliffe of Bluff Farm is this episode's guest. Robin grows vegetables and seeds in Metchosin, British Columbia. Robin is also one of the co-owners of Saanich Organics, a collective of 3 farmers that run a veggie box program and seed company. In this episode, Robin talks about how she selects plants from her 10-acre vegetable farm and transplants them to a quarter-acre seed plot to produce seed. Robin talks about her involvement with Saanich Organics and how they've hired a seed manager to coordinate seed production and sales for all the member farms, and how the most important benefit of growing seed collectively has been supplying seed to the member farms. Robin expresses a lot of love for farming conferences as great places to learn, to network, to get excited, and to recharge. And Robin talks about the BC Eco Seed Co-op, a producers cooperative of 20-plus farmers who market their seed collectively across British Columbia. In the technical section, Robin gets into growing seed for brassica greens, from transplanting with tough love to harvesting when the plants are greener than you think. And then, Robin goes into growing chard seed and how she's been selecting an extra cold hardy, yet beautiful strain of Fort Hook Giant over the last 15 years. This episode is sponsored by the Organic Seed Alliance. Organic Seed Alliance is a US-based nonprofit that advances ethical seed solutions to meet food and farming needs in a changing world. OSA's work ensures an abundant and diverse supply of ecologically grown seed, tended in perpetuity by skilled and diverse communities of seed stewards. To advance this mission, we serve growers working with seed at any scale through participatory research, practical education, policy advocacy, and network development. Join our online seed community at organicseedcommons.org, search our resources at seedalliance.org, and read recommendations for advancing organic seed at stateoforganicseed.org. On a personal note, I also want to mention the Organic Seed Conference that OSA puts on every 2 years. I first went in 2008, and I learned so much about growing seed and the business of seed during the conference, and met so many seed growers, breeders, and seed companies. It was the single most influential and formative experience in my seed growing career. If you're serious about seed, you should give it a try. This episode is also sponsored by the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian Seed Security. Seedheads is the cross-pollinating podcast where Canadian seed heroes tell their stories, share their how-to tips, and talk about the seeds they love. Join Steph Benoit and Hugo Martorell as they host conversations that are both technically useful and personally inspiring, as guests share the myriad ways that seeds are at the center of our lives as growers and eaters. If you're interested in hearing from people who are passionate about saving, stewarding, and sharing seed, subscribe to Seedheads in your favorite podcast app, or go to seedsecurity.ca/podcast and get started with seasons 1 and 2 of Seedheads today. Seedheads is a podcast inspired by Canadian seed growers and hosted by the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian Seed Security, a program of seed change. Season 3 is coming in 2022, as always with episodes in French and English. I'm subscribed to the Seedhead podcast, and I can't wait to listen to Season 3. Hi, Robin Tunnicliffe. Welcome to the Seed Growers Podcast.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
I'm really excited to be chatting with you. We haven't really talked much in a while. It's we've known each other, I don't know, maybe a dozen years since we first met when we were both we were both directors at USC Canada, and I think you were on your way out and I was at the beginning, so we kind of overlapped, and so I guess we know each other through seed work. So I'm kind of excited to get to know you again right now through seed work and have this conversation.
It's a great chance to catch up, so I'm glad you called.
So would you want to start off by talking about where you're farming and how that climate is good or not good for seed?
Yeah, so I'm on the southern tip of Vancouver Island in a little town called Metchosin. I think we're just about the best place on the West Coast to grow anything. We've got a really sunny exposure. We're right beside the ocean. And so we've got this temperate climate, and it's really great for brassicas. And I think for Canada, it's exciting because we can overwinter. We can overwinter a lot of things and get our biennial seeds. Everything grows really well here. We have beautiful, fertile soil. So we're well poised for success. It's just that the learning curve remains steep. Yeah, so we're on 10 acres, and we do about 7 acres of intensive vegetable production. Uh, an interesting thing about Sea Bluff is our biggest month is December. So we just are hauling crops out of here in the wintertime when everybody else has put up their feet. So it's, a little bit hard for work-life balance, but it's exciting for us to feed people in the winter. We've been pushing the envelope year after year about how to get more production in the dead of winter. We've got a lot of outbuildings here, and that's when I came here 10 years ago, I was very excited about many things. But one of the things that excited me was we had a lot of covered space. And I just thought, nice, I'm going to be able to store seed, and I'm going to be able to keep the rats out, and I'm going to be able to dry a lot of volume of seed. So we do have a lot of covered tractor bays, and then a properly sealed seed room. That's really nice.
So we're here to speak about seed, but are you predominantly a vegetable grower who also happens to grow seed?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we grow a lot of vegetables, and seed is only a small part of what we do, but it's a small part, but philosophically, it's everything. And I love growing, I love selling produce that I've grown the seed from.
Now, you're also part of Saanich Organics, I guess the founding member of it. And I want you to talk about that, but do you sell vegetables separately from Saanich Organics also, or is Saanich Organics your main outlet?
Yeah, so I sell separately, and it's mostly we have a farm stand here that has taken off like great gangbusters. And COVID gave it this boost, and now it's really the predominant way that we sell our produce. So I can just take things out to the driveway and sell about a third of the volume from 10 acres right in our driveway, which is pretty nice. And then another third goes to the farmers market in Metchosin. And then the last third goes to Saanich Organics.
Wow, that's a great breakdown. And it's nice to be able to sell that much from your farm.
Yeah, I know. It's the dream. I used to go to 5 farmers markets.
That is a big difference.
Yeah, that's not the dream for sure. That is the nightmare. So with Saanich Organics, it's morphed a little bit. So Saanich Organics is a collective of 3 farmers, and we are our own middleman for dealing with restaurants, grocery stores, and then we run a CSA box program. So it's 3 farmers that run Saanich Organics, but then we also buy from different certified organic growers all around us. So we do a box program of about 200 to 300 people. Just in the height of COVID, we forgot to turn off the sign up button, and so we ended up with over 300 boxes, which was initially hard, but then we realized, oh well, the restaurants are tanking, so maybe we'll just keep these people. But that was too hard. So we're kind of, the happy spot for us is about 200 boxes, and we fill those boxes and deliver them twice a week. And then we have about, I don't know how many, we probably have about 20 restaurants now. At our height, we were at about 40 different restaurants, and then 2 or 3 grocery stores. So we all bring our produce together twice a week, and we box it up and distribute it from our headquarters in Saanich.
And you, through Saanich Organics, you also have a seed company.
That's right. Yeah. So with Saanich Organics, we were already pooling our resources for selling produce and delivering and admin and bookkeeping. And we all had been interested in seed saving in some capacity. And it just made sense to us to collectively hire somebody to be our seed manager. I love the idea of having a staff seed breeder. And this person right now is Christine. We always get great people in the job, but unfortunately, they don't stay for very long. So we're hoping Christine stays forever. Um, so we have somebody who coordinates all the seed between us and then grows quite a bit of seed uh, at Northbrook Farm, which is our headquarters. So Christine tells each of us, she just knows what we have in inventory, what we need to grow out, which she does the germ tests and quality control, and then grows out different varieties for saving, and then also grows a few crops to help with cash flow, because we're still not quite at the point where we can cover her salary with the seed.
Later on, we'll talk about the BC Eco Seed Co-op, but with Saanich Organics, are you mostly selling pack sales to gardeners and homesteaders?
Yes. We have just had a capacity issue with Saanich Organics, and our main problem is that we can't get everything threshed, cleaned, germ tested, and organized for local sales before the farmers have bought their seed. So we really struggle with that late season window. Everybody's burnt out and we don't have enough time to get it going. So we sell quite a bit to EcoSeed, but we're our biggest customers. So Bluff probably buys maybe $5,000 of seed from Saanich Organics. We're using a lot of the seed ourselves. And each of the member farms buys a lot from us. So right now where the business is at, it's almost like we're saving each other money and we get to benefit from our seed. We are selling some packets. We don't have the capacity to be distributing to farmers, but that's the dream. I would love to be selling in volume to other farmers and then have other farmers that I can buy from that I trust. So we're working on
it. I just love that, though, that you have basically an internal seed economy that you're working, and I think that's fantastic.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love being able to compare how the different varieties are doing on the different farms, because we between us, we have such different microclimates. That's one thing about Vancouver Island is there's just these wacky microclimates. You'll just be, a 20-minute drive. And actually Heather and Rachel's farm. So there's three of us, Robin, Heather, Rachel, and Heather and Rachel have farms that are literally a 5-minute drive from each other. And they're totally different. Heather has this south facing slope that just bakes. She's right in the middle of the peninsula and it's quite warm. Whereas Rachel's just a little closer to the ocean and she just has, a slight, I guess it would be east facing slope. And it's just a bit more treed. So she's cooler and damp. And then Bluff, it just has this crazy wind. We're very windy and we're right near the ocean and we're another microclimate too. So we're really, we get to test the seed in different environments. Yeah, Heather and Rachel are really wet. They don't have much subsoil drainage. And we have the high and dry drained fields for the winter. So we can overwinter the brassicas better. As you'll find out, not that well, but we're trying. So there's so much learning and we are doing so many interesting things. But again, our biggest problem is capacity. We just can't always get it through to fruition to sell, but we have it for ourselves. So, it's almost like we're not making dollars, but we're saving ourselves dollars.
And is some of that challenge that earlier you said that December is your busiest month? Is that basically the competition between December and seed?
Yeah. And that's the sad I guess, we need the seed to be able to pull off the big Decembers because it's the seed that can perform in the wet and cold and weird weather. But the amount of money we can make per hour on selling vegetables versus cleaning seed, and then harvesting in the winter is truly exhausting. It's really muddy, it's wet, you got a lot of rain gear on, so you're tired. Yeah, I think that's what it is that our winter months are so huge. And that's been building over time. It used to be that you couldn't sell rutabaga, like people just weren't into eating all the wonderful winter vegetables that we have, but it's really taken off. And we can basically sell everything that we can haul out of the field. And that's our limitation, is just the time to harvest. So yeah, I can't believe I didn't think of that before, but yes, we are tired when it's time to thresh seed. So we just don't. And then we, get to it in January, and then it just feels too late. I feel like people are ordering seeds earlier and earlier, and we just miss out. But with COVID, yeah, we were selling our packets like nuts, so we didn't worry too much. But it's been a chronic problem that we can't get our seed processed on time.
Before I started recording, you were also talking about that with Saanich, you're able to grow some plants in one spot and then move them somewhere else to get them to seed, and just having that network of different growers gives you places to optimize the seed production. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Saanich Organics is, the physical space where we're saving seed is probably maybe just over an acre, but we're drawing from about 25 acres of crop. So what we do is we divvy up who's growing which for crops for seed. And then on the different farms, we'll do the roguing and the selection. And then we will either dig up those crops and grow them out on our own farm in a seed plot, or we will transfer them to Christine at her plot, or she'll be growing out the different crops and send them to us for isolation distance. Yeah, there's all sorts of back and forth, truckloads of bins of plants moving around.
I love that. Now, do you want to talk a little bit about how you yourself got into seed? Like what sparked, so this is not a new thing that you're interested in. Like when I met you at USC, you had been on the board already for maybe 6 years or so. What got you into seed? What's your seed story?
I was reflecting on that question, and I realized that I've always been interested in passionate people. Where's the passion? Where's the fire? What's driving people? And I think that's how I got into farming. Was I just, I could see people that had a spark in their eye and a sense of purpose, and that was attractive to me. I grew up in a suburb in Northern Ontario. I didn't have any farming background. And then within the farming community, I went to the Bluff Organic Conference for the first time. Might have been in the early 90s. I was at school at Guelph. I was trying to get into farming that way, and it was they didn't have an organic program then, and I was too arrogant to take advantage of the programs that they had, which were amazing. But I went to the organic farming conference, and I got on fire. And then within that segment, I was pulled in by the seedy people, because I felt like they had even more passion, and it just seemed like a fun crowd. And then I was quite political when I was younger, and I really got hooked by the politics of seed and the consolidation in the seed sector. And then I got the opportunity to do an exchange to India with Inter Pares in the early 2000s. And I went to India, and I got to talk to farmers who really were put over a barrel with losing access to their seed And then the happy stories of them getting reacquainted with their traditional seed sources and how much that meant to them, and how sacred the seed was, and how just vital. And I just love that. And it really hit home. And then just being on the board of USC, that's now Seed Change, and just meeting Dit Pellegrina. She, I think I met her in the early 2000s again, and she started talking about when climate change came to the Philippines, in the past tense. And I thought, whoa, is climate change here yet? I never even thought of it. And she was talking about all these rice farmers that were developing salt tolerant rice varieties because the typhoons were dropping salt in the fields from, ocean storms, and how these small scale growers were involved in creating varieties of seed that were helping people feed themselves where they couldn't before. And I just love that. And I just thought, gosh, this is just not only really cool, but really, really important. Yeah. And then just working with seed plants, and just the miracle of how generous they are. You plant a seed and you get so many back. Yeah. So the whole cycle of it is nurturing, and then the politics of it appeal to me. And then it's just, it's a whole nother ego trip at the farmer's market to say, yeah, not only is this broccoli beautiful, but I grew the seed as well.
Oh, that's great. I forgot you had been on that interparish trip, and yeah, it's really nice to hear all those threads together. One of the things that you wanted us to talk about, and I thought we were going to talk about later, but maybe we should talk about now, is you wanted to talk about just the importance that conferences. I don't know if it's seed conferences specifically, but farming conferences have had in your farm journey. Would you want to talk about that at this point? Like, I think the Guelph farm conference is a great kickoff for that discussion.
Yeah, I really love just getting together and having time. And I think that's one of the things with my life. Sometimes I think I'm not a very thoughtful person, and then I realize, no, it's just that I don't have any time in my everyday life because I'm running around, helping farmhands, solving problems, putting out fires. So I don't have a lot of time to reflect. And when I go to conferences and you just get to sit down and talk to people, and you hear about what problems they're having on their farms, and then you think, oh yeah, that's what I have too, and this is how they solved it. And or just hearing about how people create their lives within the confines of the demands of farming, that's so interesting. And then just hearing from people who have really thought things through and have a system that you can bring back and try out. I just feel like they're the place where new ideas spark. And I love the community, and I love when I come home from a conference just thinking, oh yeah, I'm out here in the rain planting garlic, and so are my new friends in Washington. They're doing the exact same thing right now. And I get a lot of energy from that, and a real sense of solidarity. I think the seed conferences just take it to another level, because you just, again, it's that passion that fires me. And when I was just learning seed saving, we had John Navazio, who was just living a ferry ride away. And he came to the island quite a bit, and he would come to Salt Spring and do workshops. And we would go on camping trips over to Port Angeles and take his courses and see his field trials. And that was just so formative, because I got to learn alongside a lot of people at different stages. And they would just ask the questions that you didn't even know that you needed to hear the answers to. So, their process of learning and being part of the conversation just leapfrogged me many steps ahead. I don't do social media, and I know that I'm missing out on a lot, and I feel like I should be on there, but I don't have time, and it's not what brings me joy. So I have a selfish agenda. I have a selfish agenda of just getting all the seedy people together because that's how I learn best. And just and they're just so fun, that's my chance to party is to go to the conference, have great meals with interesting people, and help them and have them group think our problems too. That's just what the most fun is that I can have.
Well, I totally agree with you. There's the OSA seed conferences have been some of the most formative experiences I've had in terms of growing seed. And every time, well, I guess it changed. Like I've been going to them for, I don't know, 15 years. But I remember the first ones I would go there and it'd feel like it would take me 6 months or a year to kind of really process everything I had just learned. And then I go the next time and I did learn even more and then make such great friends too.
Yeah, and friends that you can call when you can't figure out how to winnow, or how do you get this endive seed off? I can't do it. How do you do it? It's like sometimes it's just a 5-minute conversation. Nice, I got it. Okay, can continue on. Yeah, and it's just friends that are doing the exact same thing that you're doing, and I just find it invaluable.
Mm-hmm. And there's also the BC Seeds conference that happens. Is it every 2 years, I think?
It's every 2 years. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a fun conference as well. What is it about? I might have a bit of a fetish about Washington and Oregon. Those farmers are just so political. And maybe it's just they're more maybe their politics are right in your face, but I guess I'm attracted to the exotic. Maybe that's what it is. But I really, there's just so much more fire at those conferences. There's definitely really good friends at EcoSeed and so much great knowledge being shared. And yes, I love that conference as well. And I've been several times. I don't get jazzed up by online conferences. I've been trying, and they just don't do it for me. But I understand why they have to happen.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to more and more in-person conferences again.
Yeah.
So to get back to seed production, so how do you integrate seed production on your actual farm? Like, what does that look like in the fields?
Yeah. So it looks like a lot of flagging tape fluttering in the wind. It looks like a really interesting, vibrant quarter-acre plot that is always changing, has lots of flowers in it and bees. So what we're doing is we're flagging crops in the field and then transplanting them into our seed plot. So when we see something interesting in the field, when we see crops that are really doing well, like when we're selecting for broccoli, we will be flagging the interesting ones and then waiting for a cloudy, wet day and then transplanting them into so we transplant them full grown into our seed plot. Beets, what else goes in there? I'm just trying to think so we're just finishing off our winter succession of salad greens. So we grow a lot of different mustard greens. So, ruby streaks, Mizuna, green wave, all of those little ones. And we separate them in time as well. So we have a winter succession of Mizuna that is in the greenhouse. And so we've dug that out of the greenhouse as it started to bolt in February and then put it out in our seed plot. And so that's just forming seed heads now. And then we have the next succession of Jinsea that is in the ground now. And I think it's, my husband, Sasha, does a lot of the seed because he's really passionate about it. He got radicalized by Dan Jason and we haven't, he hasn't been the same since. So he's got all the different mustards that are separated by time. And we've got cilantro, dill in there. So our first rounds, all those first rounds of lettuces. So we do really well with the easy crops. It's just those overwintering brassicas that I really want to get to, and we're not succeeding, which is why the seed's so expensive.
Yeah, you were talking when I was asking you what crops you want to go into when we get to the in-depth seed saving part of the conversation. You were talking about the failures that you wish were working, and you're talking about the winter brassicas that you can grow well, but then just at the end, the seed doesn't thrive.
Yeah, it's painful. We have a big joke when I have friends that come, farming friends that come over, and we do the failure tour. So, a lot of times the farms look just amazing, but of course the farmer focuses on, why is this going wrong? Yeah, so I went when I went to one of the OSA conferences. I can't remember which one, but I got fired up about the Novik project. So that was the Northern Oregon variety trials. Anyway, and the purpose of that is to grow more crops that Pacific Northwest farmers can bring to market, and ideally that are ripening in the March to April slot. So those are our hunger months here. That's when we have nothing to sell, and that's when the cash flow pinch starts. So these growers were trying to develop varieties that could make it through to these the hard times that the farmers were having. So Adaptive Seed has a variety called All the Year Round Cauliflower, and it comes ready in April, which is so great. And it's just beautiful cauliflower. And I've only successfully grown it once. It has to make a long trip around the season. Like you start it in July, so it as a little seedling, it's got to handle a lot of heat, and then a long wet winter, and then it's got to get a boost, kind of end of January, which sometimes doesn't happen. But when it does, it can get enough, build its body back and grow a decent sized head. So there's been a lot of breeding to try to fill this gap. And that got me on fire because I thought, yeah, that's something that I can contribute to, because we have this field with our subsoil drainage, and we do a lot of overwintering brassicas. And I would like to be selling more in March and April when I have nothing on my farm stand. So I came back from that conference and I started trialing all sorts of different purple sprouting broccolis, and yeah, just buying up all these overwintering brassicas to try and see which ones I really like, which ones do well here, and then growing those out, flagging them. And that's a challenge with the production, is that farmhands who are desperate to get their quota of broccoli, they come across this beautiful abundant plant that you're just about to grab from it, and then they see the flagging. Hopefully they see the flagging. So making those plants, getting them through the season, and then transplanting them into our seed plot. And we do all the transplanting because we're going to use that bed for something else. So we don't have the space to, just let 30 plants go to seed in a 200-foot bed. We need to get that out so that we can use the bed for something else. So one of our most recent failures is I discovered Dark Mar 21 Brussels sprout, and I got that from Adaptive Seeds, and it's an open pollinated Brussels. Brussels are big stakes for us because everybody wants the Brussels in the winter, and they are a long season plant too. We've started ours already. They get started in mid-May, and then again they have to withstand the heat of the summer. And last summer during the heat dome, we lost a bunch of them, but the Dark Mar held on, so that was a good sign. And then we want the December slot because we have a late frost. So I want those to get a hard frost before I harvest them, because they don't, they really wow people when they've had the cold, but if they haven't had the cold, it's just not that exciting for people. So we want the December slot. And so this year we flagged, I think we flagged about 40 plants because I knew that they might die. And then we whittled that down to 30. It's self-whittled. And then we planted them in our seed plot. And I think there might be 5 that are flowering. So this is just disappointing because yeah, it's going to be barely enough seed for us. But I think what will happen is if we get that seed, then we will have very, very hardy Brussels that we can get more seed from. So as I'm reflecting on this, I'm realizing that maybe our failure is some kind of success, that if we get the seed, then that'll be a hardy seed, and then maybe I can mix it with some the original seed and get a decent population size to try again. But yeah, we're having trouble just getting that last little bit, getting it to the seed, and that's frustrating because we are successful with the production side. Like there's big beautiful plants shining right when they need to shine, but then just getting them to live past in the winter is a challenge for us.
Well, I wish you success with that, with those genetics, and I hope that you can build up a great population in the future.
Hey, you all, Farmer Jesse here. The goal of no-till growers is to help produce and create valuable niche content like what you're listening to now. We create several different podcasts, from the Winter Growers podcast hosted by Clara Coleman to the Collaborative Farming podcast with host Jackson Roulette and many more. We produce videos at the No-Till Growers YouTube channel, including farm tours and crop-specific breakdowns. And our entire model is to create helpful, valuable farming content that is free and open to the public, so anyone, anywhere can use it. So if you appreciate that and our work, or are simply enjoying this show, please consider signing up to be a patron at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers. There are also other support options at no-tillgrowers.com, or you can even purchase a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, because when you purchase it directly from no-tillgrowers.com specifically, the proceeds go to making you more amazing content like this. Okay, that's my spiel. Thanks, you all. Back to the show.
I do want to start talking more about technical stuff, but I realized that we didn't talk about the BC Eco Seed Co-op, and I definitely want to talk about that in this episode. So would you want to introduce what the BC Eco Seed Co-op is and how I guess your seed is part of it?
Yeah, so the BC Eco Seed Co-op started as an initiative of the Bauta seed. So there was a pot of money that was donated to USC Canada, Seed Change, that was set to build the seed sector in Canada. And it was just a really exciting time because we just knew that, in order for us to build the infrastructure and, just get everybody trained up to do seed really well, we needed a boost, and here it was. So the BC Eco Seed Co-op came together, and we had, representatives who went to Guelph, I think it was, for training on setting standards for seed production. And this was really important because we had a lot of seed events before that. The Seedy Saturday movement was really active here, but it really was Russian roulette what you were getting at those sales. And, as philosophically bought in as I was hesitant to buy in volume from Seedy Saturday because it's such a risk for a farmer to put in a crop and then it's not good. It's kohlrabi that doesn't taste good because it's crossed, or it's, kale that is all crossed. It's not a variety that looks good or tastes good.
Can you explain a bit what Seedy Saturdays and Seedy Sundays are? Because I know that they're very common and well known in Canada, but we have a lot of listeners outside of Canada, and they don't know about them. And I think they're a wonderful thing that people should know about.
Oh my God, Seedy Saturdays are the best. They're these seed sales in early spring, and they bring together all the seedy folks. So again, that's my place to shine because all the passionate seedy people are all in one room. Our Seedy Saturday started in a small school, and then it's now grown to the biggest conference center in the whole city of Victoria. So it's a massive event. So it's homegrown seed, and it's people from all over the place who are growing. Sometimes they specialize in flower seeds, sometimes it's everything, sometimes it's plants or tubers, and it's just a place for people to get local seed. And I was saying in the early days it was Russian roulette. Well, the skill level of our seed growers has increased so much. And part of it is the Organic Seed Alliance influence here. And then part of it is maybe it's the BC Eco Seed Conference. But people are really understanding about population sizes and selection. So you can get really good seed at Seedy Saturday, and you get a dose of the passion from the producers. One of my early experiences was going to Seedy Saturday and meeting Dan Jason, who's a seed grower on Salt Spring Island. And he focuses on beans and pulses and grains. And he just, after a conversation with Dan, you become a seed saver, because he convinces you that that's your mission in life. He's a wonderful speaker. And that's another thing about Seedy Saturdays is some of the seed growers will give workshops or lead sessions to talk about different issues related to seed, and that's really fun to listen to too. So there's hands-on demonstrations, the pollination people come, so it's almost like a little festival of seed.
I had distracted you. If we could go back to BC Eco Seed. But I did want to say one other thing is you mentioned how the Bauta Seed Initiative was part of the founding of BC Eco Seed. And I would want to point out that they're actually one of the sponsors of this podcast. And
nice.
they do all kinds of other work to promote, to build seed capacity and seed knowledge throughout all different parts of the seed community. So I thought I would just take that moment to draw that, I guess, that disclosure.
Gosh, I really get weepy thinking about what that money has done to our seed system in Canada. Like, it really has built it from a fledgling little isolated pocket movement to a coordinated, well-greased machine. And so I've had a lot of training from the Bauta. We got a grant for some seed cleaning equipment that has just catapulted us ahead a century. We have a thresher and a winnower, and it just saves so much time. And again, we were talking about our capacity. That was our pinch point, is we don't have time to do this work. So to have this great equipment is amazing. And then, this BC Eco Seed. So our founding members worked really hard to develop standards and then to educate everybody about those standards and the reasons why. And then it's been building into a big database of seed. And, we have a coordinator and a website where people can buy the seed. In the spring, they do a bunch of planning where they coordinate which growers will grow which crops for the co-op. And then, just tons of outreach and support for the growers. So we're really lucky with that. It needs critical mass. So everybody, if you live in our eco region, please support the BC Eco Seed Co-op and think about growing for them too, because they're happy to get more seed. The more diversity that we have, the more appealing we are. So it's a great infrastructure piece to handle the sales.
So you then sell seed through the BC Eco Seed Co-op also, then, in addition to your own personal seed company and your on-farm seed network.
Yes. Yeah. So BC Eco Seed will commission us to grow certain crops, and then they'll purchase those in the fall. And then sell them, and then it's on commission. So if they don't sell it, we get it back. But it's getting to be a bigger and bigger portion of our sales. And then we have seed packing parties in our packing facility, And so we do those 4 seedy Saturdays. So we bring our seeds to about 5 regional seedy Saturdays, and then we sell them in maybe, I'm going to say 15 different garden centers around town. So that's where the seed goes. And then we have it at our farm stand. Another thing I do with the seed that is a bit of a value add is I grow seedlings for sale. So I use our seed and grow them out in, little packs, 6 packs of lettuces or cilantro and dill, all of that kind of stuff. And I sell those at the farm stand as starter plants. So that's kind of a value add with our seed. And then I can show people, if you want to have cilantro all summer, buy this, starter pack, and then buy the seed, and then seed it every 2 weeks, and then you'll have all the cilantro you can eat.
It's an interesting way to think of that as a value added seed pack.
Yeah, well, it's like you take 1/8 of a pack and sell it for more than a seed pack. Yeah.
So I think now would be a good time to pivot into talking shop about a couple crops. And you said you'd like to talk a bit about growing brassica salad greens for seed crops.
Yeah, so it's mostly the gentiana. So Mizuna, ruby streaks, all the mustard greens. So we separate them in time versus distance. Yeah. So I grow all of the mustards separated in time. And I guess, our seed coordinator, I guess she has a bunch growing at the same time, but we just separate them in time because we have so many successions of salad. So before we turn in a bed, we will just dig out a 40-foot section. So we kind of just, when we seed the salad, it's quite thick. So it'll be like, I guess we sprinkle it like spice into a row. So it's very thick. And then we just dig that whole row out. And we have, about a 200-foot row of mustards, but we'll dig out 40 feet and just throw it in a trough in our seed plot. And then we will wait till it goes to flower, and then we'll dig out another crop and then throw it in beside it. So that way we don't have tons of space in our seed area, but we just keep rotating it into mustards. And then we do.
So your trigger is that when a brassica has gone to flower, that's the time that you'll move, and that way that when it finishes flowering and setting seed, the next one will be going into flower, but they're not going to be there at the same time to cross-pollinate.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how we do our mustard greens, and then we do a ton of corn salad, claytonia, endive, all of those winter greens as well. And they are in the seed plot at the same time as the early ones. And then as they seed, like we've pulled out our claytonia already. And so now we have room for our next generation of, what have we put in there? Probably red giant. I was just describing that we dig out these sections, and it's not like we're transplanting individual plants. We just kind of dig it in a trough, like shovelfuls, and then put it in.
That's so it's not a tender loving transplanting. It looks like it's
there's nothing,
rough process.
And we kind of learned that from John Navazio. He was really into torturing the plants and saying, if they can survive this, what we're trying to do is expand what these crops can do. So they experience hardship and still produce seed for us. This is good. They've had some water stress, they've had some heat stress. He was really big on not babying your seed crops because you want them to experience some hardship so that you're weeding out the weakest genetics. So yeah, when we're doing our brassica seedlings, we're not gentle. Like I really make sure that we water them in so that they they survive, but it's not, we're not dilly-dallying about caring for each one.
Mm-hmm. So that's great. So, I mean, I think it's great. They might not like it, but I think it's great.
Yeah, John Avezio talked about doing these spinach trials, and he had this spinach field, and he said this was the worst cesspool of disease you've ever seen. Every strain of mildew and whatever was in that field. So that's where I wanted to plant my abundant Bloomsdale, and I wanted to see, can it withstand these mildews, because I knew they were there. And when I saw that they came through, I knew I had something good. Cool, eh? That, you're not bathing these, and I think that's one of the problems with our seed system is we get all of these seeds that are babied in the laser level fields, perfect chemical fertilizer, perfect whatever, and we're not experiencing the whole of what these plants can do. I had a great conversation with one of our customers who we've had this really cold and wet spring, and he did a bunch of tomatoes, and he was trying to do 30 different varieties, and he had a bunch of seed from us. And I have never refined our tomato starting system. It's horrible, and the tomatoes really suffer in the early time, but then they pick up and they do really well. So I'm never motivated to do anything about it because, I worry for a couple of weeks and think, oh no, everything's going to die. But then it turns around. So when he was starting his tomatoes, everything died except our tomatoes.
The tough love tomatoes.
Maybe by torturing these plants, I'm doing them a service. Well, I am selecting, which ones can handle cold, wet, because we start everything on a heat pad, but then there's too many, and so we put them in our greenhouse and it's not heated. So we get some cool, damp days, and they don't look good for a while, but then they rally and we get great crops. So we're expanding what the plants can deal with. So when you get mustard greens, you'll know they're hardy.
So let's go through the rest of the brassica green cycle. Do you do anything special between you'll transplant them and then they go to flower and then to seed? Do you do anything special during that time? Do you do any trellising or anything, or you just let them go in the garden?
Yeah, we let them go. I think the only thing we tie up is the radishes because they're there for so long. But I feel like our salad greens are quite quick and they don't need the trellising. One thing we do, and I was just having a conversation with one of Heather's apprentices, was that we harvest them slightly green, like they're not all fully dried. And we do that because how they ripen at different stages. So sometimes you lose a lot of seed if you're waiting for the perfect tan hue on everything. So we'll harvest them when they're quite green, and then we lay them on tarps, and then we flip them every day for as long as it takes to dry them, and then we thresh them. So it's they're greener than you would think, and we have great success with them.
Are you letting them after ripen in a greenhouse or in one of your covered buildings?
Oh yeah, so we have all these covered buildings. That's the thing, if you don't have a lot of covered space, then I wouldn't try harvesting them green because maybe that's part of our system is that we have all this covered warm, dry space, and it's freaking windy here, which is a real asset in drying. It's not an asset for when you're trying to care for a small seed and it blows away. But so the good airflow is key to our system, and then the covered space. So we are letting them fully develop. And it's not like they're like juicy green, you can't just squish them in your hand, but they're still, there's a strong green hue on them. And then we'll get them out, lay them on tarps, and that way we just get all the seed. Whereas if you wait for it to totally dry. Some of them will have shattered, and then you'll lose some of your production.
Do you keep the root balls on the plants when you pull them, or do you cut that down?
Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about. Do not do that. And we've done that. We talk about failure here. So what happens? We have a little mini sickle, and we cut that root ball off. So if you put it on a tarp with the root ball, then you get little bits of soil that are the same size as the seed, and you cannot get them out because they screen at the same rate. So you do not want dirt in there. So don't do that. That's my advice. Yeah, we still have some dirty arugula that we just seed twice as thick. It's full of little dirt balls.
Now, do you how do you thresh your brassica greens?
So we lay them on the tarp, flip them, and then they kind of just get pushed to the back of the tractor bay till they're really dry. And mostly we just don't have time in the summer. So whenever we get some time, or we get a volunteer that comes, then we have a dance party and we throw on the tunes, and then just thresh them with our feet originally. And usually they're just so dry by then that it's pretty easy to get that off. And then they're all collected on the tarp. Another key learning thing is to not have tarps with holes in them, because one year we had this Mizuna, and we had arugula that had Mizuna in it. And we just said, what? How did this happen? And we figured, because we have all these tarps shoved at the back of the barn, one of them had holes in them, and we moved one over another one, and some of the seed fell in, and then we just couldn't get it out. So so really good tarp. Invest in nice tarps that don't have holes in them. So dance party, then just collecting it in a bucket, and then screening it as we can. And then I will bring it to Saanich Organics where the winnower is, and do a final clean there. Another cool thing that I forgot to talk about this Eco Seed Co-op is that they have this mobile threshing trailer that will come to your farm and bring like a seed separator. So all this professional grade equipment, and you can go and get all your seed cleaned. So we often do a rough screen, leave it in a bucket, and then we wait until the fall when the Eco Seed trailer comes around, and then we bring it into Saanich Organics in buckets, and then do the final screen.
And is the winnow, is it a winnow wizard, the winnower that you're talking about, or is that is it?
We call it sucky, and it's the vacuum separator.
Okay, is that a custom made thing, or is that a purchased
It's
thing?
a custom made, and it is a series of pipes, and so there's a vacuum on one end, and then it sucks the seed up a pipe, it sucks it up vertically, and then and you adjust the suction so that it picks up the chaff, and then the seed all falls along the other side. So it kind of goes up through this network of pipes, and and you adjust the suction so that it separates based on relative density. Yeah, I guess I should have paid more attention how it works. I just know, and I suck my seeds through that, and they're perfectly clean. Yeah, so it really helps get those little, oftentimes the chaff will break up into sizes that are similar to the seed, and then you just can't get that out. Well, the sucky seed separator really works well.
I think there's a video online of it, and I'm going to post that in the show notes, so you don't have to worry about going into the fine details of it, and people can look at that and go and look at those.
Yeah, it's really fun to operate because it's got a clear tube, so you can see the chaff getting taken off. We just save a lot of money doing this. And that's, a bottom line is we grow all our seed for our salad, and that would be a big cash expense. So having our own is great. And then I love growing it out because then you can really keep an eye on what's happening with it. And if it's, the color of it, the texture of it. I just feel like mine is just growing really well under our conditions. So it's really nice.
So the other crop that you thought we could talk about is chard, and specifically I don't know if you call it a breeding project. Maybe it was an inadvertent breeding project of some Fort Hook chard that you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in an attempt to have more overwintering produce, again, our winter markets are just insane. So I wanted to have more production in the winter. So I started selecting for chard that would overwinter, and it was quite easy to do because basically everything died except the ones that lived. So then we at first there was maybe half a dozen, and then as we planted those out the next year, we had, it's kind of a year and a bit because we wouldn't have the seed ready for the spring because it's a biennial. So it was kind of this leapfrog thing where we were saving seed and then planting it out in the spring. We plant it in the spring and then it goes for 12 months. And then so we were getting more and more survival, which was really exciting. So we were weeding out the genetics. So when we had a really cold, really wet, really soggy, the worst time is when you get a super soggy soil and then a hard freeze. And then, the roots just can't take it. So we had a lot of different conditions, and the more we were selecting, the more success we were having. So now we're getting about, I'd say 80% success rate. And even more than that, like they're not just surviving, they are actually yielding a significant amount to harvest, which is exciting. So we've selected the genetics for winter survival. But then what happened was we realized, oh gosh, nobody's harvesting off these crops all summer because they're so ugly. So there was some correlation between winter survival and gnarly shaped leaves. So we started selecting now for the most beautiful and the upright, nice shaped ones that are selling. So the farmhands were, really good at just selecting nice shaped leaves. So we realized the plants that weren't getting harvested off of, and then we were able to select, okay, these are really nice. We'll flag them. Don't harvest off these, and then we can watch them all summer and see, okay, are they holding their shape? And then what happens over winter? And then saving seed from those ones. So we now have a strain of Fort Hook Giant that lasts the winter and is beautiful. So it's been, like a long process, like probably 15 years. So pretty happy to have the seed. So it's just, observation over time.
So you're sowing those in the spring and then harvesting through the winter, flagging the best ones, and then do you then transplant them in the winter to the seed plot? And then those over winter, do you harvest during the winter also on those, or you just let them go?
So once we flag them, we'll flag them in the late summer and then see how they go. And we'll flag, around 50. And then inevitably there's some trait that shows up that we're not wild about. So we'll let that one go. But yeah, we won't harvest off those ones that are transplanted into the seed crop, the seed plot. And it's quite funny because people will often hover around the seed crop because they want, when we're short for an order. You have to say, no, you don't get those ones.
Trying to sneak a plant out.
Yeah, because oftentimes there's this scarcity because everything in the field has been harvested down to nubbins. And then in the seed plot, there's all these luscious fig leaves. So it's very tempting, but we have to enforce discipline.
And then so those go to flower in the next spring, and then you harvest the seed.
Yeah, they're just starting to elongate now.
And now being early June.
Yeah.
In case somebody's listening to it at a different time of year.
Yeah, because you guys can't overwinter. Do you do anything with chard? Do you dig it and store it?
We've had mixed success with chard. What we're doing these days is we're planting it out and we're covering it with a mini tunnel in the field. And then it gets like 2 feet of snow and it's going, with the mini tunnel and row cover, it's probably not going much lower than -10 Celsius, which is on the edge of too harsh for it. And, I think we're still in the selection process, getting the genetics better. The quinoa pods are not our strength where we are. So your chard goes to seed, and do you harvest the whole plant at once, or what's the harvest process for the seed?
Oh yeah, it's not the funnest to thresh. So yeah, we'll just it hangs on to its seed pretty well. So we'll just wait until not till it's super brown, but till all the seed looks good and formed and ready. And then again with our little sickle, we'll just cut most of the plant off, maybe leave anything that looks like it's kind of wet or would add moisture, and then put it on the tarp again. And then flip it until it's really dry. And then again, it goes back in the barn to wait until we have time. And then our best method for that is just putting on a pair of gloves and just pulling on the stems and just, stripping the seed off. We can, we do an initial dance party, but you don't get it all off, I find. It's tenacious on the stem. But we'll strip it off and then run it through the seed separator. That's the best way to get all the chaff off because it's pretty chaffy. And screening, we'll do a bit of screening, but mostly the seed separator does a great job. Yeah, we'll do an initial screen. Just like while we're storing it, we don't want anything to add moisture in there because especially in the late fall, if there's chaff in there, it'll add some moisture. So we'll get that out the best we can. And then we've got the seed room. We'll throw it in a bucket in there until we get around to getting it professionally cleaned.
Well, thanks for walking through that chard. That sounds like some fantastic chard.
We've had -12 and it's lived. So that's pretty...
Yeah, I'm curious how well it would do in our conditions compared to some of the populations we're working with, especially since you've been selecting so consistently. So at this point, I'd like to pivot to a couple wrap-up questions. What would you tell your younger seed-saving self?
When I saw that question, I was remembering one of my first times saving chard and getting these huge buckets. And just thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be like $50,000 of seed. I'm going to be rich. Like I can retire on this bucket of seed. And then I realized, oh, I can't sell it all in packets, can I? So I think I initially thought that it was going to be a very lucrative business. So I quickly learned, oh gosh, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. But I think we went through this process because we thought we were going to build this big seed empire. When we realized how much you could get off seeds, holy smokes, this is going to be huge. And then we really had to do a recheck of our expectations. But I think to talk to my younger self was just to realize how much incredible satisfaction and how much of a contribution and all of those values and how much it's added to our farm and how we can do incredible things in the winter that we couldn't have done without it. So to really just keep in mind that it's not failure that it's, you know, it's success in a different package, and it has contributed so much to the overall economic productivity of the farm, but it looks different. And then it's just a long process. It takes time, and it takes a lot of reflection. It's always a thinking game for me. And, you know, just in this podcast, realizing, oh yeah, you know, that Brussels experiment, it's not a total bust. It's, you know, partial. So it's a humbling process, and there's tons of success in it. And it's just a bit harder to see sometimes.
And what would you say to market growers, you know, if they're veggie growers or flower growers, or what would you say to them to inspire them to start saving seed?
I think they should pick a crop that is meaningful to them. And, you know, the chard was something that really hit home to me. And then just start working with it. And in a few short years, you can make a real difference in a crop. And then just start small. Just start and do one crop really well. And then you can start expanding. I think it's tempting to do a lot of varieties, but it's very valuable to do one or two really well and then build from there.
Well, one last thing is, would you like to tell people about your book?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So many years ago, 10 years ago, we wrote a book called All the Dirt. And it really was a reflection on how we built Saanich Organics, which is our collective marketing business. It was a time before we were doing seed in earnest, but it does talk about the growing pains of creating your farm. I remember one of your first feedbacks to me, Dan, was, gosh, you talk about how much you were crying. It's like, oh yeah, it was really hard. We don't cry so much anymore, actually, hardly at all. Yeah, I think just, you know, when we were young, the stakes were so high. I you know, my whole family had said, you can't do this for a living. You're going to have to stop sometime. And it's like, no, it's going to work. Okay, you know, one of these years, it's going to work. And then here I am now with a great job, a great life, financial security. It's pretty nice.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, so you can read about my humble beginnings.
Yeah, I think it's a great book. I think that I love it. It really shows the three of your stories, the similarities and differences, and how you had a vision of what you wanted, and how you kind of came to reality of what you could have, and then how you changed it. Each of you have kind of similar, they're all different stories, but they're similar transformations. And I think it's a fantastic farming book. So Robin, thank you so much for spending this time talking about seeds and catching up. It's been really great chatting with you.
Yeah, really nice. Hope we can do it again soon.
So I'm going to wish you a fantastic season, and we'll talk later. And that's episode 9 of the Seed Growers Podcast. A huge thanks to Robin Tunnicliffe for being on the podcast. There are links to Bluff Farm, Saanich Organics, and the BC Eco Seed Co-op in the show notes. There is also a link to a video of the Sucky Seed Separator, and a link to Robin, Heather, and Rachel's book, All the Dirt. This is the before last episode of Season 1 of the Seed Growers Podcast, and I would love to know what you think about this season, and what you want for Season 2. You can tell me your thoughts by clicking on the survey link in the show notes and answering a few questions. It would mean a lot to me. The Seed Growers Podcast is produced in part by No-Till Growers with the help of our sponsors, the Bauda Family Initiative on Canadian Seed Security and the Organic Seed Alliance. A huge thanks to Jackson Roulette and Jesse Frost of No-Till Growers for making the podcast happen. You can find more seed growing resources at seedgrowers.farm. If you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, now's the time. You don't want to miss next episode. Until then, happy farming.